Hi everyone, boa tarde. Welcome to the Intersection Talks, which are the first initiative within the Open for Community, series. This is actually a series of afternoon talks, which will take place every Thursday of the month. So take good note of that, and which aim to promote a meeting between professionals from different areas. So we believe that some of these professionals actually they come from different backgrounds and their paths don't cross each other. But we truly believe that sometimes the contribution, the cross-fertilization that may occur between these different communities may leverage actually the organization results. And today we have a super kickstart with Sara Gomes and with Cláudio Valente, which I guess represent the spirit of what we want to achieve with these intersection talks. So let me just give you a brief background of where they come from. So Sara is an AI strategist with extensive experience in AI strategy and transformation across different industries. Sara has also leads the responsibility of artificial intelligence in Portugal, being part of the Accenture global team. And last year, I think it's worth to notice that she was recognized by the Women Community Network as a leading female professional in AI. So thank you a lot, Sara, for being here. It's truly a pleasure to welcome you in this first series of this webinar. We also have Cláudio Valente. Cláudio Valente is a country people and culture people manager in IKEA Portugal since 2015. Cláudio has a multinational experience. He has been working in over 9 countries and always within the human resource side. So, but across different industries. So I think a great background to discussion here. So he joined IKEA Industry Portugal as a HR manager in 2011, and since 2015 he's holding this position of country people and cultural people manager at IKEA. So I guess we have 2 great speakers for today's seminar. I will try to interrupt as least as possible, and of course always trying to guide here, and of course also bringing your questions back into the seminar. So feel free to add any comment into our YouTube channel. We'll be very glad to enter them and within our conversation about a topic that. We can say a lot of jokes about that, but a lot of people talk about it, but no one really makes it to a greater extent, which is people analytics. And so to open the question, I was, like a good case discussion, a good opening question is as important. And I was thinking, and I would like to bring Sara maybe to help us with the first question, which would be, I guess the first obvious question for the audience is, what actually are we talking about when we talk about people analytics? I guess there's a lot of understanding of what this may mean. What's your view on that? What is people analytics for you?
So first, thank you, Pedro. For me, it's really a pleasure to be in a business school talking about analytics. And maybe the first question is, what is analytics? And analytics is how you transform data into actionable insights. And these actionable insights is an important thing because we are saying that we are creating value for business from data. And now is just transport this to HR and to people. So we are saying that people analytics is using data to know employees more because we are using data or more dimensions about employees, and better because we are creating insights, and an important thing, actionable insights. And how we will use this? We will use it to manage them proactively, and this is something important, and offer them a hyper-personalized experience, maximizing the impact and the results. And if the first part is more related with the daily basis or on how to hire or how to retain people, and it's more rocket science, let's say this. The second part is not rocket science, and it's more like travel to Mars. So our organizations are not prepared by now to understand how to hyper-personalize our employee experiences. So in a nutshell, this is what is people analytics.
Okay, we're quite encompassing, I would say, right? We do have a lot of degrees of freedom. I want to explore that a little bit in a while, but let me first revert the question back to Cláudio, and I would like to have his experience more focused, of course, on what has been the IKEA journey in people analytics, and I would like to have your view on that. Are you fully agreeing that it's really about the personalization? What's your view on this, Cláudio?
Well, I think we are pretty much aligned. I would say that I'm trying to share my desktop, but for some reason it's not able to share. I don't know if you, Sara, needs to stop sharing or?
Yep. Yeah,
these words. Yeah, go ahead, Cláudio. Yeah,
fantastic. No, but I can try to share a bit where we are in that journey. But I would say we are pretty much aligned with Sara. So what I prepared just to share with you, it's a little bit how we are making this possible for us. But I would like also to say that we are in the very beginning of this journey. This is something that we start, to be honest, 10 months ago. So we are still learning, we are still developing, but we are already seeing a lot of excellent results coming from this analytics perspective. So I thought to show a little bit where we are in terms of our organization, of how we are organized in the people and culture in IKEA Portugal. So we have a pretty much standard organization. So the blue boxes are the management team reporting to me. But I have one function that we call the people and culture delivery manager, where it has the main responsibility about everything that it's with data, KPIs, analysis, processes improvement. Then we have also all the delivery coming from, for example, with people planning, timekeeping, salary administration, admin. So this is the area that it's like the intelligence area, always feeding the organization with all inputs and data for us to take the decisions. And last year, as I said, 10 months ago, we decided to recruit a people analytics and info specialist. And I'm very happy with the decision. And I will explain you why I'm so happy with this recruitment. So we have a vision in people and culture in Portugal that is to create a better everyday life for the many people. And this is only possible if we have the right data. Because it's only with the right data that you can take the decisions towards people that are the right ones. And when I say the right ones, it's not only the right ones for today, but it's also for the coming months. It's also for the coming years. Pedro, you are mute. I don't know if you want to share something. Or?
No, I'm fine. No, sorry. That's perfect.
Okay. So, but where we were a little bit in this black hole. You know, we call it the spaghetti. Why the spaghetti? Because we had a lot of data, a lot of systems, a lot of information, but we were not able to work with that, at least in the way that we would like to, because the different systems were not communicating to each other. We were only having also reporting data of the facts that was already passed, and we were forecasting. And it was amazing to see because on the other parts of the business, we are super strong on this. For example, forecasting, reporting, for example, in sales. But in terms of people, we were always a little bit lost in the middle of this data. And also we have started to see some interesting behaviors because we were acting a lot of overconfidence. What is this overconfidence? We have very senior people in our organization. And we started to understand that a lot of the decisions were coming with our guts, with our, I would say, with our feelings, and of course, our experience. Of course, when it's about known business, this is, of course, very positive or very valid, where you can have, for example, someone that is quite senior and use his experience to really take a decision. But for example, now in IKEA, we are entering a completely new business where you can't use only the gut feeling. You need really to have data. Just really to make sure that you take the right decisions. Another one was also interesting with the bias. And I always give the example of the recruitment. Every time that we are doing a recruitment, if we are not aware, we are always trying to get the right confirmation in the recruitment. So we want to interpret the candidate already from the first feeling that we had. And this can, of course, do that the experience of the candidate would not be the best. And by that, I would say that the selection of the person would not be the best. So this is pretty aligned with what Sara said. But for us, we created like, okay, what this means for us, analytics for IKEA. At least for us, we said that the people analytics is the practice. Just a minute, it's missing here something. Okay. People analytics is the practice of drawing our data to make informed decisions about the workforce on the organization. So as you can see, pretty much aligned also with what Sara said. And from that standpoint, we start to make an analysis where we are in terms of people and culture, not the rest of the business. But we have seen that we are, I would say, very strong in the descriptive statistics. And as I said, a lot of data for us to use, but more in this descriptive statistic. But we were not so strong in the predictive statistics, meaning establishing correlations, forecasting, or machine learning. This is something that we are quite far. That's why that we said, okay, this is a unique opportunity for us to do the first steps to build this journey together. And where we start to apply it, we start to apply in engagement, in stress measurement, in training, restructuring of some departments, recruitment, leadership satisfaction, and a lot of many other things. And this is only the examples of the customer of the coworker experience block. To finish, and not to take so much more time, I can already correlate or to share with you some of the, I would say, the benefits of this analytics or the results that we came by using this. For example, in IKEA, we were doing a lot of interviews. And this is also positive for one hand, but this is also very time consuming, and time is money. We started to do more or less analytics to tell us what would be the most, I would say, or the number of interviews that will, I would say, gave us the most success fee. And we discovered that 4 interviews, it's what we shall take for us to secure 85% of success of the candidate, for example. We also discovered through analytics that leadership index, our leaders with leadership index more than 75%, that their teams has a turnover less than 2%. We also discovered that when we have diverse teams, we have a high performance result 3 times better than a team without or less diverse, and many others. So that's a little bit to share with you guys. Okay. I hope that it didn't take so much.
Super. So the whole journey, or well, let's say more focused on the people analytics side, it just started 10 months ago, Cláudio. It's 10
months ago. Yes.
Okay, super. So a lot of work going on these 10 months already. I see. Yeah. So, may I just, yeah. So I think one of the things that struck me when you were presenting it, and also connecting to the holistic view that Sara gave, was to understand. So within, let's say, a journey of an employee, we do have definitely different traits, right? From identifying to attracting to developing, and of course to retain talent, as you were mentioning right towards the end of your presentation. You gave examples on the recruitment side also, and I saw that these were the first examples that you gave. Where do you see that most value could be extracted from people analytics? In which stage of, let's say, the life cycle of a customer or of an employee do you think that more value could be extracted from this type of technique?
Yes. To be honest, I would say that in all stages. For us, our coworker experience has 12 blocks, I would say. And for example, if you start even when a candidate is only thinking to apply for a company, for example, and this is the very beginning of the journey, meaning that you are looking for a new job, you are looking for a new opportunity, and then you start to look in the market, what kind of companies do you like to be interested to work in? This is already, I would say, an important momentum for us to use people analytics about that are searching our site for jobs. Who is these people? What kind of competence they have? What kind of experiences they have? And then, for example, already late, I would say, in the experience, for example, you are already working with us, you are already in the onboarding in the 3 months, you can, through analytics, to understand what kind of knowledge did you get in the 3 months that you have, for example, in the onboarding. What kind of satisfaction you had? What was your pain point on that. So I would say, to be honest, through all the processes, the 12 processes.
Okay. So you cannot really point out one part that will stand out. Okay, so what's your view, Sara? I'm curious about that. As a consultant, where do you think there's more value for companies to harvest throughout the journey?
So are you seeing my desktop?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me share, because the simple question or the simple answer is show you what is the typical value chain for people analytics, but I will not do this because for me it's a difficult question to answer, and I prefer to give or to put this in another way. What is the business purpose? Because HR exists to support business. And the first question is, what is the business strategy? And the investment in HR will depend in what is the business strategy. So it's not a technical challenge.
By now it's the business side, right? It starts from the business side and then you go back to the analytics part, right?
Exactly this. So it could be in any step of the value chain. You can achieve the value you want. So the question is exactly this. So, and this is just to highlight that from all the spectrum of analytics, you can get answers or insights. So it's not technically, it's have in your mind that you are addressing crystal clear business questions. You are not developing by your side what you need in your HR department. So, and I think this is something that you need to have in mind.
Let me ask you to keep this slide here, because I think that connects actually to another question that I have that actually connects to Claudio's presentation. So I saw that as in a typical analytics journey, you started with the descriptive side, so understanding, what my data tells me and understand what was then on the past. But as you were saying, you were looking to things that have already occurred, right? And you started this journey of moving into the predictive side, right? And looking to more like, will my customer churn? In this case, will my employee churn? Will I have a high performer here? So looking more to the predictive side. But actually here, Sara even steps up the game, right? So she's bringing this prescriptive side of the analytics, which we know that prescriptive meaning prescription, meaning helping to make actual decisions and not just bringing insights. My experience tells me that generally in an operations problem or a marketing problem, it's already hard to step up the game into the prescriptive world, because suddenly you are somehow challenging the decision makers, right? Because you are saying, hey, you know what? The machine will do that. What's your view on this, right? But then suddenly we are talking about people, right? And we all know that these subjects, they bring more emotions to the decision-making process. And Cláudio, you were describing some of them, like the confirmatory bias. There's a lot of things that actually are more emotion in people analytics. That's why I think this area is so fascinating. So maybe a question for both of you. One, Cláudio, are you really seeing that one day you will like to go into the prescriptive side, or do you think that it could actually jeopardize your efforts, in the sense that people may get a little bit like, okay, now we are touching in a field that it's not, it shouldn't be really the focus? And then maybe for you, Sara, in your experience, most of the projects, where do they stand? On the descriptive, on the diagnostic, or you are seeing a lot of players already going to the prescriptive side? Maybe we start with you, Cláudio.
The answer is yes, Pedro. Meaning that, to be honest, I don't see other way besides being, I would say, working with forecasting or predicting, because behaviors can be predictive. This is also, I would say, it's a fine balance between working with analytics and machine learning, and also the emotional connection. It's the three. I always like the triangle. I will say that the triangle is the most strong geometric form we have, because it's when you put things in a triangle, they normally work. And I think it's the sum of these three dimensions here. But for example, already in teams, using analytics and machine learning, you can already see, for example, for the future, what is the probability of people leaving the jobs in IKEA. for example. You have also the possibility to see with what kind of managers and profile of managers that you can combine the best teams, because you behaviors, because you do their own evaluations, you do their own performance. So if you combine this data and also take in consideration their own profiles, you can even have more strong teams in the future and more happy teams, because if you combine it, they will not only succeed in performance, but also in the emotional connection. So the answer is yes. I think that this is the only way moving forward.
Okay, bringing more prescriptive side to it. Okay, so maybe a follow-up question, and I'll turn back to you, Sara, but just to follow up on this. So when you were recruiting for 10 months ago for these people analytics, let's say boost the analytics side of your team, were you looking for a profile? Because usually sometimes these are different profiles, people that are more proficient on the predictive / dashboarding side, or more, let's say, the optimization / prescriptive side. What was your drive there? Was more on the statistical side, more on the data science, traditional data science side, or the other way around? Yeah.
You had, I would say, much more in the traditional data science.
Yeah.
For example, our recruiters, they were seated, of course, it's I would say a pretty much standard recruitment process. You were seated with a recruiter manager, try to understand the 360 of the department. It's not a function, the 360 of the department. What kind of person you would like to have in that team and why? But you're building this by hand. So imagine the number of hours and time that a recruiter will need to invest just to do this in the right way. Today, with analytics, we can already save a big part of this time because we know the team much more in depth, and we can use this already in the recruitment.
Super. Sara, tell me a little bit, are we really lagging behind and just doing descriptive analytics, or do you see the thing a little bit more trendy? Let's put it that way.
Pedro, and now you are touching my hot topics. So I think I'm now just jumping to this slide because this is the one that I like the most, and in two different sides. So the first is we need to remember that the raw material for analytics is data. And almost of our organizations are in a low maturity state. So it means what we have in our organizations. We have fragmented data, poor quality of data. We don't have critical mass because we have all the initiatives regarding analytics are completely fragmented. So what does it mean? If we don't have raw material with quality, we are not able to do quality work or work with the quality. So it means that by now our organizations are focused on try first to have data with quality. So of course they are more focused on descriptive, on try to understand what they have. So this is the first point. The second one, and this is the thing that I like the most, is regarding when you ask about the profiles. And I love this question because when we go to an organization is the two key reasons are, or because an organization bought a tool, or because an organization contracted data scientists. And they bought a tool, but they don't have a reason, they don't know what to do with the tool, or they contract a data scientist, but they don't know what to do with the data scientist. So what I need to say is do analytics is like do a yogurt cake. And I always use the yogurt cake metaphor. Why? Because it's not because we have the best yogurt in the world that we are able to do a yogurt cake. So it's exactly the same. To do analytics, we need data, we need technology, we need people, and we need ways of working. And we need to combine and orchestrate all of those capabilities in an organizational way. So what is, in my opinion, the role, or in my opinion and other people, the role of HR? HR needs to focus into different things. In one way, HR needs to be the catalyst of the change, because we know that to succeed, we need to change our culture to a data-driven one. And we don't have literacy in our organizations to understand what is the power of data. So culture is something that HR needs to work with. It's something in the mind of the people. So the other is, okay, so if we are working to support data-driven transformation in one way, we are supporting and we are being accelerators of this change. We need at the same time to build our own capabilities to support this change. So it's
quite a journey. It's quite a journey there.
It's quite a journey there, yes. But I think it's important because what I see in almost of the organizations is each department work per se in different initiatives, and people analytics is just one of those. And after this, they are not unlocking value and feel really frustrated because they are not unlocking value and they not understand why. So this is, for me,
because they are missing one of these links here that actually jeopardize the whole effort.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I was actually not paying enough attention, but I see that our let's say live chat on YouTube is starting to get some traction there. So let me actually switch a little. I had a lot of questions, but I want to be more democratic here, so I will turn on to some of the questions that we have on YouTube. By the way, if you just entered our session, feel free to connect with us on YouTube, and I'll be glad to bring some of the questions back into our discussion. And although I sounded altruist, I will be egoist, because one of the questions that are here is actually one question that actually puzzled me for the last time. And it's a question from Rui Coutinho, our executive director also at PBS, and he talks about how do you think we can fine-tune and perfect the compensation and incentive policies leveraging on analytics? I think this is, probably a lot of people that are seeing our webinar today are posing the same question. And I have a couple of thoughts on that, but I will leave it for a while. Cláudio, how do you do that? How do you fine-tune the compensation of your work? Are we really leveraging on analytics? We are talking about behaviors. Should we just leave this one aside? Maybe don't start with this use case. We'll get grilled. What's your view on this?
I think this was one of the points that analytics came to improve this in IKEA, but I was already happy by then in the way that we were working. So we have a culture of meritocracy, which means that we pay for merit and for performance, which means that we were already, I would say, designing our comp and band structure in a way that will take in consideration these two main areas. The big difference was that is the workload, meaning that we were working before in Excel files, endless Excel files. And then it's quite frustrating. I would say even for the comp and ben, I have a department that is specific working with compensation and benefits. And it's such an important topic, such a fantastic topic, but I could see their frustration in the tools that they're using. And with people analytics, again, it came a lot by making their work even more enjoyable and easy to do it. So I would say, for the future, the people analytics can really secure that you pay for performance or per merit, for sure, because you have completed the trends. You follow up, completed the coworker in all the momentums. It's not only by year. You can have more or less almost every month what was their results in the deliveries that we expect also from our coworkers, but also at the same time to create a forecast in the predicting, as you said. I mean that you can see that probably these coworkers, if they keep this kind of performance, you could have, for example, for the coming 2 years, the following development, for example.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I will make the question a little bit even harder for Sara, because I think the trick about what you just described is understanding the causality effect. So if I increase 10 euros per performance unit in my employee, what will be the elasticity on the performance side, right? How do I see this translating into the business? Because that's actually what the prediction is about. And I find it super hard to go into that level, but let me hear about Sara.
I will ask you the question, how updated is your data? what is the quality of your data? I have no idea. Because what happens is that almost of our models are working in data that is not affected. And it was something that we saw during COVID, for example. We knew that the data from our employees are just not updated.
Was weak. So even with good data, I have a conceptual question, which is, sometimes you may want to imagine scenarios that you haven't just tested in the past, right? Maybe, Cláudio, you just paid until 120% of exceeding the KPI. But imagine that you want to reward until 150. How many employees will have the will and the drive to go all the way through and exceed themselves? How much should I compensate on that? So I think data to a certain extent has limitations. And I would say also the models will have limitations.
Yep.
And my take is that you need a more agile organizations that are willing to test. Because some of these data you will have to acquire these days. But then testing on people, I understand testing on consumers and testing on products and testing on, production lines, but people analytics, they have this tough side, which is people, right? And it may be hard to do an A/B testing within our teams. So how do we kind of dissolve this conundrum is something that I don't have it quite fixed in my mind. So I would like to have your view on this.
I had a discussion this weekend with my sister, because my sister works in change management, and our discussion was why it's so hard to get investment in HR, in people. And it's hard because it's difficult to get the ROI.
Yeah.
So I think the first question is how we can start measuring the ROI, and the elasticity that you are talking about is, in the end of the day, is what is the return on investment? So, and now we know that, for example, if we increase 0.01% in NPS, it represents something in the sales revenue. Do you know? So I think one interesting thing is trying
to this
start...
is a causal relation.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. Cláudio, you want to add something?
Yeah, I can add. I mean, that's today I think that it's possible to do this. For example, you talk about agile, and this is a very good way for us to test and try. Meaning that we have Scrum teams working here with projects, like 1 week projects, 2 weeks projects, and so on. And we can test and try different pay scales, different pay incentives to teams. And also
and you are agile that way at IKEA.
Exactly. So it's easy for us to test and try. I don't see this as a challenge.
Super. I think this is I'm glad our audience is listening to this, because I don't see that position that often. So I think that agility is definitely a key to success.
Sorry, but now I need just to say something, because we are talking about agile, and I was one of the mother of agile in analytics and organizations, because when we are talking about agile organizations, is different than we are talking about developing agile. And it's impossible to develop in agile if we don't have agile organizations. And what we see in our organizations, one more time, is people that have Scrum Masters and that put Post-its in the wall, but this is not agile. It's impossible to really have agile or people developing in agile if we don't have, after this structure or a team structured to support this kind of service providers. So
it has to go hand in hand, I understand.
Exactly.
Culture there. Yeah. Okay, well, let me turn back to our audience. Again, very vibrant questions, so keep posting them. And we have a great one from Isabel Borges. I really like this question because it goes back to actually what Sara said a few minutes back, that we should start with the strategy side. And so Isabel asks us, how do you correlate business strategy with teams motivation and build a generic convergent model able to forecast the best decision to people and company? And that reminds me of a very interesting article from Harvard Business Review, which is called something, I won't recall the title anymore, but basically it's about a company that have developed a statistical model that correlates the financial performance with the customer performance and with the employee performance. So it's very interesting because it just covers, it's kind of a statistical model that goes over the whole supply chain. And it basically establishes a causal effect showing that customers, if they perform and if they, there's a lot of metrics, if they are interested, engaged, etc., then this will go down to customers, and then this will go down to financial performance. But to be honest, this was one of the few cases where I saw such an holistic performance, such an holistic approach to this case. What about you, Cláudio, at IKEA? Do you have the willingness to achieve such a tremendous goal of linking back from strategy to your employees' KPIs, or do you think that this is just too far-fetched? I personally have doubts on this one. Yeah.
No, being that in IKEA we have a strategy, a 10-year strategy, and then every 3 years we call it the 10 jobs. The 10 jobs that we need to do to secure that we are always on track for this 10-year strategy that we have. Then, of course, we have the business plan, as all the companies, budgets, as all the companies. But what makes a difference is that when we are doing the strategy planning for us, we do it always with the 9 main areas. That takes exactly, as you said, the 3 main components. And we need to understand how each one of these components are influencing the total outcome. Mm-hmm. For example, if you want to grow X% in omnichannel, if you want to grow in cash and carry another X%, if you want to deliver this in terms of worker experience, what you need to deliver that in a customer experience, you try to correlate what is really needed in these joint forces to secure that this happens. And then you really have a lot of discussions around it. I would say that in the last years, at least in the years that I've been here in IKEA, I had the chance to be part of the designing these strategies. And I have seen, I would say, how much important it is really to have these 3 areas. But it's not easy. I would say that a lot of times the investment needed for us to secure that these 3 joint forces equivalent, or at least proportional wise, but it's not easy, I must say. It's an open discussion. But at least what I'm really
But worth in the effort already, like.
Exactly. But at least it's there. It's there, the discussion, it's there. It's, I would say.
And you want to establish that link.
Exactly.
Okay. Sara, have you ever undertook such an encompassing project that goes from the financial performance of the company and tries to build all the way through models that would connect back to the employee satisfaction, employee performance, employee rewarding?
Actually, all the projects, because by now it's difficult to justify a project if you are not justifying those economic parts. So you always need to find a way to have a kind of the business case. So this comprehensive way to understand all this. So you need really to find what are the drivers and how to get this return on investment.
So you really seek for this causal relationship between the different parts of the value chain.
This is the part or the beauty of the data-driven consultancy.
Okay, that's that is great to know that that we are able already to go so far beyond in linking all these different parts of the company. So we keep, let's say, having different questions, and Ana Prata de Figueiredo, who also thanked for your presence here. She wants to move back to one of the topics that we started right at the beginning, which was about recruitment, and I think this is worth to explore a little bit more. So you just mentioned, Cloud, in particular, that your recruitment process were getting better through people analytics, and I think that was already clear. But she asked something I think I found interesting. What about accuracy? Why better? And in particular, was it about accuracy? Were you able to track down faster the employees that you thought were more fixed to the business? And how so? What metrics? What models? How have you come? And of course, feel free to answer to the extent that you feel appropriate. But how were you able to get more accuracy in the way you were recruiting?
I don't think that I listened completely your question.
Okay. I will rephrase very quickly. Don't worry, Cláudio.
I'm sorry.
Sure, no worry. So I was saying, on the recruitment process, I understood that you started to undertake some people in the lead job. In particular, were you able to improve the accuracy of your process? Also, were you able to select better candidates in the end? Probably accuracy and efficiency. We could look at both ways. How so? What was the trigger? What kind of analytics did you use that you think actually correlated more to the improvement on accuracy/efficiency?
I would say three main ones. The first one, it's the team behaviors that we started to capture, I would say, by combining all the team performers. And this helped us to find the candidate, not only from the competence perspective that it's more adjusted to the function or to the role, but as well the emotional connection that it's needed to create with that team. For example, diversity and inclusion, it's one of them. For example, ethnicity, it's one of them also that we can go through data, through this analytics to try to understand what kind of components in terms of behaviors that this can bring, I would say that. Then another thing that it's also interesting, it's in terms of mapping relevant experiences, because how much of this relevant experience can really, I would say, secure a higher success from the candidate in the future. And this is something that it was very difficult for us to handle, because we have a lot of information in the CV, but we were not categorizing this information. We are not capturing this information. So every time that we need to leverage, we didn't have the chance because we didn't have it in place.
Okay. So now you categorize what you kind of tag the CV of the candidates, or what is it?
We are still in the journey. The answer is we have now, I would say, exactly the tool that it's helping us to develop, but there is still
kind of a text mining tool somehow that we
and there is still a lot of manual work that we need to optimize. But today the tool that we have, it's already helping us to really categorize this and to leverage on that.
Okay, that's very interesting. Sara, any good experience that you can share on how you can? I see. Yes, so I will stop the question. Go ahead.
First of all, let me congratulate Cláudio, because in 10 months you are doing really a great job.
Thank you.
The bases were there. I see that the bases were there already, right?
Yes.
I think you have the right focus. So I need to congratulate you for the work that you are doing. And those are the most typical things that we do in analytics regarding acquisition, development, and the services. So the kind of analysis that we do for the most simple ones, for the most complex ones. And regarding acquisition, the first is the talent demand forecasting, so simple things, the recruitment funnel analysis. But what I want to show you is when we try to start using different kind of data. So when we are getting external data, structured data, joining data. So it's when we have that kind of maturity, and this is, Cláudio, I know you don't have this now, but you will achieve this, I'm pretty sure, with the energy that you have. But the real value is this, is when you try, when you have this maturity, you are able to do great things. Otherwise, of course, it's good, but you will be in a most, in the spectrum of those things, of course, that you are generating value, but it is what it is. But it is a journey, So it's better start than don't do nothing. Okay?
Exactly. I agree.
Okay, great. So we maybe switch a little bit subject, and we have here a question from our executive director of our digital MBA, our newly addition to the portfolio of MBAs of PBS, Professor Rosário Moreira, and she asks a question which I think is very timely, and I know that she's worried about these topics, which is employer branding, right? So nowadays we talk about the employer branding as important for our teams. How do you see the connection between these two topics, the people analytics side and the employer branding? Do you think one helps the other? What's your view on that? And maybe we'll keep the same order. Cláudio, do you see this as a concern? Do you think these are orthogonal subjects? What's your view?
I will give a correlation. So it's like market insights towards brand position. Is this possible to work one without the other? The answer is no. I would say that today, for example, for employer branding, we have the people analytics to support you. You can target the groups that you want, internally and externally. So my answer here is clear. I think that there is a clear correlation between both, but also connect with something that it's very important that Sara repeated a couple of times. It's really the quality of data that we need to have. The symbiose between both of them, it's clear, but for us to have the quality of data, and even, for example, in terms of market insights, also coming directly from the recruitment perspective, it's for sure a key point for us to succeed from that.
Okay, super. Sara, you want to add something here or no? Okay.
I completely agree.
Okay, super. So I will go back to that model because here we have a question from Alexandra Sobral, and I will go back to that model that I was just describing on this HBR paper. And so Alexandra is asking actually, how can we use people analytics to make people more engaged? And actually, in this whole model, it all starts with employee, right? So we want engaged employees so that they can then reverberate then to customers and then to financial performance. But it's true, we need to shake the initial part of this whole value chain. So how do we do that? What kind of analytics, what kind of examples can we use actually to trigger that relevant part, probably the most relevant part, the engagement of our employees?
I would say that at least for me, one important advantage of this to increase the engagement, it's by giving this information to our coworkers. So you have a lot of people that is working a full year and only get one-time feedback per year. And then it's a completely mess. People don't, meaning that in a lot of things, they are probably correlating with the last 2 or 3 months. Now imagine that every month, you are sharing information with a coworker, with the person that is concerned. How you will feel that if you get to the end of the year, knowing exactly what will be your performance, knowing exactly what you have contributed, where were your strengths, and where we are not probably so good that you need to focus. And this, I would say, the people, we are not there yet, but I really to get there, is to have a consistent, honest, and transparent data.
And on time, right? On time.
Exactly,
right?
in real time to our people. Yeah. And this in terms of engagement is fantastic because you can influence.
You really see the shift there.
If you know exactly in real time, you can act and you can change. But if you are waiting a full year, I would say, normally the development talks that we have, or it can be, I would say, a little bit disappointed for people.
Sure. I think that's a very interesting topic. So you really need to have the infrastructure to be able to deploy this information in real time, not to be lagging behind on the opinions and on the data that you are providing to customers. And that kind of naturally, it will result in a better engagement of customers.
Exactly.
If your words correct.
For sure.
Okay, that's interesting. Sara, any particular technique, any particular thing that you found in your different projects that really, shape the dialogue between engagement and the variable that you may be pushing there?
Yeah, in a more mature organizations, I think now what or what HR is looking for is understand what are the key drivers.
Sorry, I will just ask you maybe to, in one second, just maybe stopping the presentation so that...
sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm saying for in the more mature organization, what the HR department is looking for is understand exactly what are the drivers that motivate each people in your organization and create a value proposition that is good for you. Because, for example, for me, learning could be something that creates engagement. But for you, Pedro, is not learning, is other things.
The customization is an important part of this.
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
Sorry, I find it also quite relevant. Of course, it increases the difficulty in building all these models, right? Because suddenly we are in a one-to-one model, and we all know how hard it is to calibrate these models, in particular, given the whole setting that in particular you described, Sara.
And I think then more than the analytical part, it is increasing the complexity in the operation.
Yeah, exactly. Executing on this, it's also so easier. Yeah, and I think some of our discussions so far may have scared a couple of people that are saying I will never pursue this path anymore. So I want to make a couple of questions, and I'm following actually on one question from one of our participants, again from Anata. And she's saying something, or she's asking something which I find interesting, which is, okay, a lot of variables, blah, 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 but come on, some will be more important than the other, right? And imagine that you are a company, that you are starting this journey, and you cannot just compile the whole world of Skype, Twitter, LinkedIn, personal, ERP information, and it's just too much. I want to start somewhere, and I want to leverage on the experience that you have, guys. So from your experience across the different projects that you might have within the people analytics field, what was the conclusions that you arrived? If you had to pinpoint 3 or 4 data sources or 3 or 4 data types, which one have you found that had a higher coefficient of correlation with the output variable, being its performance or whatever that we may be having here?
It's really, I think, sorry, it's really...
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's really simple. Really simple answer. Don't waste your effort and your money when you don't have a business question to answer. Don't waste. Don't spend your money in a tool. Don't spend your money in a resource if you don't have a clear business question to answer. Just this. Find 1 or 2 use cases, and after this, try to understand what are the capabilities that you need to develop those use cases. And you are proving value. If you are proving value, you are achieving or getting the art of the people. Just this. Really simple.
Okay. Claudio, what was the key data that really you saw? Okay, if I had to do let's say a classical Pareto analysis, what would be the 20% that you put the most effort?
I will not give you this answer. I think that each company is a company, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And I think that the most important is for you to choose the big 2-3 movements that you need to do to support your people and business. And then this can be completely different from company to company. So I can be saying that for IKEA, for example, for us, recruitment and performance was 2 key points. And basically was because strategically wise, the 10 years, as I said, the movements that we wanted to do, especially also to connect, as you said, the business also with the people movements. These 2 were important
for the critical ones for you. Mm-hmm.
But if I was in another company, probably choose others. It depends a lot on the movements that you want to create.
No recipes, unfortunately.
At least from my perspective, it's like...
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with you. We have 6 minutes to wrap up our conversation, but I didn't want to there is a question that I have to make. So how do you and I know that this is an hybrid field and a recent field that is emerging, but for sure you have a lot of expectations to see how will these evolve over the next years. So what's your view on that? If we will be having this conversation in 5 years' time, what do you think will change from what we are saying? Or maybe we are not having this conversation at all. No one talks about people analytics anymore. No, I'm challenging you, but I would like to have your view on, how do you see the future of this field? And before you answer, I'd just like to really apologize for the questions that we didn't really have the chance to answer, but we stay in touch otherwise. Okay, great. Claudio, what's your view? What will the people analytics of IKEA look like in 5 years? And of course, if you want to extrapolate general business setting, how do you see people analytics evolving in the next years?
Yeah. I will say that I would like to, at least in 5 years' time from now, that we forgot that we didn't have people analytics, that this is present in our business, that it's no longer a discussion, it's no longer a topic. We just have it and just want to improve it and so on. And as I said, to have machine learning and continuous improvement.
So you see this as a reality, right? This will become
exactly
reality.
Yeah, you know this. Everyone knows that. Meaning that the life of the companies is being tough and tougher every year. So you need to present better results with less resources. So for you to have the right data, for you to take the right decisions, is no longer an option. For me, it's no longer an option.
It's a must, right? And
competition. We don't have the money to spend. So you need really to do the right investments and to take the right decisions. And if we don't put this in place, I would say probably we are putting the total business strategy also in danger. So I would say that the organizations will understand that this is no way back, and that this is a very valuable investment. And in 5 years' time, this will be part of the process. And forgetting already that we have not had something like this 5 years ago.
Okay, great answer. Sara, what's your take here?
Okay, so I think until now, our focus was on customer, to understand our customer and how increase sales. So by now, our focus will be in employee, because we understood that maybe machines will be here. So I'm pretty sure that we will find a way where data will be transparent, but we will we need to augment our capabilities as humans. And I'm pretty sure that in 5 years, we will have targetized experiences and augmented capabilities based on data.
Okay, super. I just hope that we keep the human side of people analytics alive. That's, I guess, also something quite important that we should not lose sight when developing all these efforts. But I see the conversation was very positive. I was really happy to have you both here on the webinar. Thank you, Sara, again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudio. I guess we have given a bright perspective, and but at the same time a realistic one of the opportunities, the challenges, but that really show us what the future may hold for people analytics. Again, thanks a lot. And before we close the session, I would just like to mention again that these intersection talks, which this is the first of a long series, hopefully, of these late afternoon talks. And just to remind you that they will take place every first Thursday of the month. Okay, so, and this was, I guess, a wonderful start. We hope that we were able to attract as interesting guests in the near future as we had today. Thanks a lot for the people that were listening also and posing questions. I think that really helps also in making these intersection talks more interesting by bringing more intersection to the game, right? And we leave it from here. Good afternoon, and thank you a lot.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.